Step right up, my twisted friends, to a tale where darkness never ends. You know when you're just going about your daily business, doing things the way you've always been doing them, but then something happens and you just snap. Man, I can't relate, not even a little. I feel like my life has been a Joker arc, but then I remember a time before it all happened. One day you're playing Genshin Impact and nothing is wrong with the world, and then you're immediately being carted off to prison for an act you did not commit. Maybe it's something that happened in your life, a humiliation you faced, a betrayal, or a backstab you might have received. What is it that pushed you over the edge to make you who you are now? What was that one focal point, that tendon that snapped, that changed everything? These characters, once heroes, now lost in despair, became creatures of nightmares, a chilling affair. In the twisted realm where anime characters roam, beware their wrath, for they'll never find their way home. Ladies and gentlemen, today on this lovely channel where we don't talk about things that affect our own mental status at all, or talk about our own journeys deeper and deeper into the abyss, today has absolutely nothing to do with me going mask off in my content and getting canceled on Twitter. No. You see, today is a completely subjective look at anime characters that went through their Joker arcs. If you look at the actual terminology of a Joker arc, it's when someone becomes a menace to society, possibly due to an inconvenience. It is a reference to the Joker, obviously, because, you know, the Joker, it's not about the money, it's about sending the message. So today we are going to be talking about anime characters who, well, they were doing their own thing. They were these, you know, nice, genuine, kind, moral, upstanding citizens, nice members of society, much like I used to be. And then something happened, something changed. Some darkness encroached. So my friends, as you shiver and shake, remember these tales for sanity's sake. For when anime's darlings descend from their stage, rampage and chaos shall be their only wage. Today we are talking about the biggest Joker arcs in anime. I have been sponsored by potentially the most wholesome possible sponsor, Isekai Slow Life. Nani? You've been transported to an isekai world and turned into an adorable walking mushroom? I wish that was me! In this wonderful new world, you will begin by managing and developing a small town, while meeting and engaging with all kinds of women, both beautiful and bizarre. Discover unknown lands with them as you wander at your leisure and enjoy the quiet life. In this incredibly wholesome game, you get to make a family with all kinds of otherworldly women and enjoy intimate interactions. Oh, that's why they sponsor my channel. Meet and take home women from many different races, a gentle vampire nurse, an artistic octopus teacher, a lovely siren drinking companion. Yeah, we'll call her that. All while enjoying the sweet, relaxing days of an isekai life. Explore the continent of isekai and form bonds with various companions from all walks of life. Cat girls, maid girls, goblin girls, tons of women, each with unique skills, ready to aid you in exploring the secrets of isekai and building your village. You open stores, you open taverns, schools, you use your keen business skills to develop the economy of your village. Join the Adventurers Guild and experience co-op play and challenges. On the road to godhood, every road is meaningful. As your exploration of isekai unfolds, your form and reputation will change and evolve, and before you know it, you won't just be an ordinary mushroom anymore. The road ahead has many paths, each awaiting your discovery. So click my link in the description or hit the QR code on the page right now to download Isekai Slow Life and use the code MUSHROOM to get 10 free draws. Thank you so much, Isekai Slow Life, for sponsoring this video, and honestly, it has been a pleasure to work with you. Now, back to the memes! In the realm of psychic might, a young boy walks, unassuming and timid, his powers locked. But beneath the storm brewing deep within his soul, for Mob the Esper shall unleash the untold. The first Joker arc that I really wanted to talk about today is one that hits you on a personal and relatively relatable level. It is the story of a man named Mob from Mob Psycho 100. An underrated classic, if I do say so myself. Mob grew up as a very unordinary child. He was someone who always had these incredible untapped psychic abilities that he could somewhat control but didn't really know how to very well, and most of all, he didn't want them. He was different because of them. He was this scrawny kid who could do everything in the world with psychic powers except for make friends. Which I know it sounds corny as all heck, but if you follow in the footsteps of One, the writer of both One Punch Man and Mob Psycho, he very much likes telling the story of how power is not what it's perceived as. You have a character like Mob who's all powerful, but really, does that matter when you can't make a friend, when you can't talk to a girl, when you're someone that looks at yourself like you're a failure and the only reason why you have any semblance of success is because you were born with these powers instead of actually working on becoming someone great? The story of Mob Psycho is that tale of someone becoming someone he himself is proud of, and it has nothing to do with his actual psychic abilities, which is just a really, really well thought out way of talking about growth from a character perspective. But this isn't a character analysis. This isn't talking about a man who grows up and becomes someone relatively respected, becoming somewhat of a better person. No. This is a video talking about the absolutely depraved, the darkest corner of a man's heart, when the man finally snaps and enters his Joker arc, as I wish I could say never happened to me. Definitely subscribe for relatable Joker arc content. If this video hits 20,000 likes, I'll do Joker arcs part 2. This is just one of my favorite archetypes in anime, and I'm happy to talk about it in detail. In Mob Psycho Season 2, which is peak fiction, by the way, Mob returns home from a very long day. And one thing that you see that is very present in the world of Mob Psycho, or at least from the narrative perspective, is this percentage meter. Whenever Mob gets worked up and he has less of a control over his emotions, which are the stem of his psychic power, his number rises a little bit. Yeah, it gets a little bit higher, a little close to 100%. The story's called Mob Psycho 100 because the meme is, when he gets to 100%, he blows his fuse. He loses control over his psychic powers and he can cause immeasurable damage to everyone around him. He is a ticking time bomb and he knows it, to add to the mental stress and inadequacy that this man literally lives with every day of his daily life. It's just such a beautiful concoction of character development. Mob goes home after a long day, a hard day of work where he's actually proud of what he is becoming. He is someone that can gain more and more control over his psychic powers. He is someone that joined the Body Improvement Club, which is hilarious because this man has psychic abilities. He can pick up a city with his psychic powers, but still, he's gonna work out and try to build up some biceps because that's something he could do himself. He is all about that personal journey, that hero's journey, that journey of growth, something so relatable and powerful. And then he gets home and he sees his house is charred. Not just charred, someone lit a fire vindictively and destroyed his home. He sensed traces of psychic energy. This was done by pyrokinesis. This was no freak accident. Suddenly, a man who always lived by the Thorfinn mantra of having no enemies had enemies. In the past, we have seen his meter hit 100 before. When he got into a fight where the enemy just wouldn't back down, and he, being the pacifist that he is, would try his best not to raise a finger, eventually his meter would hit 100, he would lose control, and he would obliterate his opponent. This time, that did not happen. Mob Psycho's Joker arc is, in my opinion, so powerful because it goes against everything that he is trying to be. He tries to be better, he tries to have better control, and he tries not to be someone that engages in fights. I don't want to make you cry on the first Joker arc of Mob Psycho, but his Joker arc goes against every fiber of the person he is trying to become. When he goes home, he sees his house in ashes, and he believes his family to be dead, with fake corpses placed there so that he can be fooled, and so that someone could really egg him on. Well, egged on he became. His meter hits 100% and keeps going. The number keeps rising and eventually it breaks, it shatters, and it hits question mark numbers. This is the Joker arc for my boy Mob from Mob Psycho. I don't want to get too heavy-handed on the very first entry of the video, but unfortunately, I really wanted to. I wanted to talk about a Joker arc that goes against the very fundamental being that is Mob and the person he is trying to become, and when he reaches that level, he knows that he has failed in being the person he wanted to be, but he doesn't care. To avenge his family, he goes wild. He tracks down immediately the people that caused this fire because this man is incredibly psychic powerful dude, and essentially for the next episode, he is the main antagonist of the story, even though we're still sort of watching it from his perspective. While he believed always to use his psychic powers for the sake of good and for others, he suddenly is thrust in a position where he is the biggest threat to anyone around him and any one of his friends. He loses who he is entirely. He becomes a shell with incredible psychic abilities and a threat to everyone, friend and foe alike. Mob eventually calms down. He eventually realizes that his family is actually alive. But what if his family would have been dead? Would he have become the person he feared most? Well, that is the existential question left to us in Mob Psycho 100 Season 2 as the story becomes a war for survival. Great show, by the way, in case I didn't mention. This is a bit of a somber Joker arc, and the reason is because I like having an overarching point in my videos. They will each have another facet or semblance of what a Joker arc is and why it is such an impactful scene in anime. I really wanted to start off with one coming from an emotional core, and I will end off with one from an even higher level of emotion. In the shadowed streets of Victorian despair, where terror thrived with a morbid flair, there, lurking a figure, a killer unseen, Jack the Ripper, the nightmare machine. Records of Ragnarok is potentially one of the coolest settings for an anime battle royale of all time, and Jack the Ripper, one of the fighters for the sake of humanity, does not disappoint even a little bit. To fill you in a little bit on the setting before we dive into Jack's character and Joker arc, which made him such an iconic character, let's be real, Ragnarok is an event thrown by the gods. The gods decided humanity is cringe. They saw Twitter, they saw all these people watching Genshin Impact, they found out about VTubers, and they were like, gamers, it's time to wipe out humanity. These guys went way too far. The Valkyries stood up and were like, yo, let's call Ragnarok a tournament where you take, 11 humans versus 11 gods, and whoever wins, best of 11, they win, and humanity either survives or gets wiped out. And the gods are like, you know what? Just because you're an audacious biatch, we are going to listen to you because I want to beat up some humans. Then all of a sudden the tournament starts where humans from throughout history are chosen as these epic warriors to face off against the god for the sake of humanity. Now, most of the humans selected by the Valkyries to fight are these incredibly noble forces that are just fighting on behalf of humanity and putting their absolute life and soul on the line for the sake of their children. You have a fight with Adam versus Zeus, which will forever be one of the most iconic battles of all time, where Adam will forever be cemented as one of the most inspiring anime characters. And goddamn, if you haven't watched this show, that one scene, and you know the one I'm talking about, I'm not going to spoil it for you right now, don't worry. That one scene with Adam versus Zeus is worth the entire show. And then, in the 4th round, the Valkyries select a very interesting human as a representative of humanity. Jack the Ripper. Yeah, and he's going up against Hercules, the nicest of the gods, a really kind dude, a very noble soul, versus Jack the Ripper on behalf of saving humanity. And this dude's a serial killer who basically is renowned for history as a dude who killed whores in alleys. Yeah, this is who's representing the humans right now. All of humanity is watching this epic battle, and they are torn whether they even want to root for Jack over Hercules, who's this noble guy and genuinely would want the humans to live too. It's a fight to the death, and there is no possible happy ending for humanity here. As the fight goes on, because ultimately Record of Ragnarok is all about these incredible battles, but even more than that, it's just an incredibly powerful insight into many different characters from a perspective that you wouldn't expect to see, and this one was of Jack the Ripper. Jack, as a child, had quite a difficult upbringing. As a kid, his mom was a whore, and she found some dude, some nice, sweet, nice, kind, wholesome fellow that decided that he loved her. Which is very awesome, I guess, right, for her. Sure, she can get out of that very difficult line of work, especially at that era. But he promised that he would forever love her, and she was very excited. She was going to end up marrying him. She had dreams, she had hopes, and eventually, all that came crashing down. Because this guy, he didn't care. He could promise her the world because it's a promise he didn't need to keep. He's British, and British people are kind of evil. I love alienating my audience just randomly. Every once in a while, I'm just like, oh yeah, Australians? Bro, how can you trust a man that rides spiders to work every morning? Anyway, before I continue bastardizing everyone in my audience, Jack's mom has a bit of a schizo attack when it turns out he actually doesn't love her and he was just telling her all the things that he wanted her to hear so he can get his dick wet. She has a fit. She blames Jack, and she says to Jack, you are the reason why he's not loving me, which obviously isn't the case, and Jack kind of loses his mind and sort of accidentally ends up killing his mother, which is very traumatic, I would say, but strangely enough, he felt like the entire life that he was living with his mother until now, where his mother kept telling him that, she loves him and all that, that was all sort of a lie. She attacked him at this moment when she thought that he ruined her future. Even in love, she could not be trusted. She is not someone that he can truly believe in. All of society failed him. The rich has failed him. Poor people failed him, and his own mother failed him. The one honest thing that he ever saw in his life until this point was the fear in her eyes right before she died. And something awoke in Jack. Something snapped. Jack wanted this feeling again. A feeling of honesty. A feeling of trust. And you can only trust a dying man. Or woman. You see, unlike a lot of people on Twitter, Jack the Ripper, advocate of gender equality, kills men and women. Absolute mad lad. I love the man. And thus begins the reign of terror, the endless night and the endless plight of Jack the Ripper. As he's killed so many people, including the person that his mother was planning on marrying, because why the hell not? He killed all these other people, might as well kill someone that he actually didn't like. Jack the Ripper, very famous serial killer in history. You should probably read about him. And here he is today. It is kind of vindicating in its own way, because right now, the hopes of humanity are thrust upon the shoulders of a man who everything he became in life was due to slimy trickery sneaking around because of his completely warped perception of humanity. And here he is, the man shunned by all of humanity to the point that he had to freaking snap and go mask off Joker arc. This is the guy that humanity is relying on for their very salvation, and he uses every dirty trick, sneaky maneuver up his sleeve. He's lying, he's cowering, he's doing everything that he possibly can. He gets absolutely brutalized, and he does it for humanity. Ultimately, he wants to see that fear in Hercules' eyes before Hercules dies, and that's something that he never sees. A man as noble as Hercules can almost restore Jack's faith in humanity. In the madness that is Jack the Ripper, you see a serenity that is bone-chillingly terrifying, which makes his almost calculated Joker arc one of the most terrifying sequences of character development in anime. In a world alight with flames ablaze, a man emerged, casting fiery haze. With golden eyes that sparkled bright, Roy Mustang the Flame Alchemist took flight. This is a man that needs no introduction, and this is definitely one of the ones that made me inspired to make this entire video. As much as I like a Joker arc where the man kind of snaps because society is cringe, or because someone else is cringe, or because someone else is unfair, very seldom do you see a Joker arc that makes you smile ear to ear because the vengeance that this man is about to carry out is ultimately so justified, and if you would be in his boots with his gloves, you can only wish that you would have the pleasure of doing the same. Not to spoil too much, but there are these people in that ended up killing a very, very close friend of Roy Mustang. And Roy Mustang's character arc throughout the entire story is essentially trying to track them down. That and becoming king of the pirates. Mustang is an incredibly powerful and proficient political soldier. He is someone that is incredibly strong throughout his entire duty, and he is the beacon of ambition in the entire tale of which is the only correct way to pronounce that anime, by the way. Now, the reason why this is so iconic, to build up some backstory aside from the fact that his best friend was killed by these people, we have to understand who Roy is. Roy is a man who always stood out as the person telling the main character, Edward, do not go crazy. Don't have a Joker arc. Keep your mask on. I understand this personal shiz happened to you, but suck it up, boy. This is the man that always told Ed not to get personally involved. And this is the man that had the most bone-chilling fight ever. He's up against these homunculi, these creatures that cannot die. They are borderline immortal, no matter how much damage, how many bullets, how many rounds, how many machine gun fires, how many swords you are impaling them with. They do not fall, they do not falter. First, he runs into lust, and we have not seen a homunculus die through the course of this show. They are revered as immortal. Even people with immortality have their limits. Roy is a not happy man. The first time he bumps into Lust, he's kind of pissed at Lust for other things too, like stabbing him through the abdomen. So after he sears his own wound closed and engraves the circle for the transmutation that he needs to cast his fire powers in his own hand, he takes the lighter from a man that he thought she killed. He walks up to her and says, "Let's see what gives out first, my life or yours," and he toasts her. He fries her. I feel like the entire "hey, who let him cook" meme was made for Mustang. He obliterates her and shreds her into ash. Her screams are still heard in my ears now, and I couldn't help but not feel bad for her at all. And that's not even the Joker arc. The full Joker arc is when he goes up against Envy. Envy makes a big mistake, and that is, Envy is very envious of humans, when humans are actually kind of horrible sometimes. Envy taunts every human that he sees because he feels like, oh, I'll put him off his rocker, I'll piss him off a little bit, he won't be able to think clearly, and then I'll have an edge in the fight. Envy makes a very big mistake. He tries to taunt Mustang by saying, oh, I'm the one that killed your friend. Oh, was that a big mistake? And thus, the mask falls off. Mustang's response to this taunting is, how does it feel when the fluid in your eyes boil? and blows Envy's eyes out, and then continues to chase Envy around, shredding him again and again and again with these incinerating flames. Envy is crying, Envy is begging, he turns into this little maggot version of himself, and he is begging and pleading for him to stop, to just let him die. Either stop or start. Don't let me regenerate, just to obliterate me again. Mustang loses sight of who he is and what he wants, because at this very moment, this Joker arc is who he has become. He is the very instrument of destruction he needs to be to avenge his comrade. This is the cool and complacent character that throughout the entire show is telling Ed to calm down. This is the character who truly has a strong sense of justice and will go against the law and the government to save people that he thinks deserves to be saved. But this is someone that lost a friend, and someone that will do anything he possibly can to avenge him. Eventually, long story short, Envy kills himself to avoid the suffering and humiliation by being obliterated by the lesser being Mustang. What's so terrifying about this scene is, even though it's completely justified and it's a completely brilliant arc for Mustang, a beautiful final battle that he has with a homunculus, finally putting closure on this story of how his friend was brutally murdered. The fact that it genuinely felt good to watch him torture Envy. I think the scariest part was we don't recognize who Roy Mustang is at that moment. He is not the Roy Mustang that we knew the entire show. He is one of the most iconic characters because of his highs and his lows, because of how he can always keep his cool, but how he can completely lose it. We go from rooting for Roy Mustang as he maliciously obliterates Envy to suddenly questioning if this is the Roy Mustang we've watched this entire time. And by extension, we get a reflection of ourselves, and we ask who we are too, and what we would do in his position. We ask ourselves if this would also be the precipice of our own Joker arcs. Under the weight of loneliness and pain, he yearned for acceptance through pouring rain. With a whirlwind of energy, his spirit unfurled. Naruto, the Jinchuriki, changing the world. Naruto is a character that I would say has Joker arcs relatively frequently, and that's because he has a crazy demon's fox spirit inside him that whenever he basically loses controls of his emotions, the fox can take over and go completely hog wild. And I think it would be criminal not to include my boy on this list, because quite frankly, I feel like this paved the way for the entire inner demon Joker archetype that follows the story because of how impactful the scenes that Naruto actually loses it is. So I'm going to make this a bit of a more broad discussion on power scaling in general, because I think that this is something that Naruto does right that a lot of shows do not. So in the epic clash of Naruto versus Pain, which will forever be one of the most impactful and incredible fights in anime, second best in all of Naruto, by the way, Naruto shows up in one of the coolest anime entrances ever. He fights Pain, he's doing really well, eventually he gets slapped, he gets beaten, he's weathered, he's on the ground with a spike speared between his two hands, and he has finally and ultimately failed the Leaf Village. He is about to get captured, he is about to get sacrificed, and basically the world is not going to be in a very good shape. The world might look like the Leaf Village does very soon, which is very bad. Whole goddamn city got turned into a crater by this man just waving his hands, and that was epic foreshadowing for what would happen to the Boruto plot. Ha ha! Alright. It's at this point in the fight when Hinata goes and decides she is going to face Pain, and she does a really great job at spectacularly losing to Pain. Yeah, Pain obliterates her. Like, dude, you really gonna do Hinata like that in front of Naruto? What are we watching here? Sneeko? Is this Sneeko content? Unlike Sneeko, Naruto actually gets upset when his future wife gets railed by another dude, and I think this was the most iconic Naruto Joker arc, because this is when he loses it and the Nine Tails basically completely takes over, grows like 8 tails, goes wild, has some pretty wacky animation, and beats the crap out of Pain, leaving them in a position where Naruto could eventually win the scuffle and defeat the main Pain body with Talk no Jutsu like everyone likes to see. The point that I'm trying to make is this is a really good way to power scale a character, because more often than not, some crazy emotional thing will happen and their emotions will give them a power boost that will allow them to win a fight. I really like when that's all explored in the actual show. I don't like the ass pull power-ups that happen at emotional times and don't really make sense or have been pre-established. I don't know, I'm not looking at anything in particular, but I just finished Demon Slayer Season 3, and every time a Demon Slayer is losing a fight, they get some crazy Demon Slayer mark and they become 10 times stronger. Like, really, bro? Why has this not been explored in the past? This is how you do it. The nine-tailed fox has been a force of nature that people have been talking about for literally the entire show. Episode 1, we were introduced to the carnage of the nine-tailed fox that the 4th Hokage needed to sacrifice himself to stop it. Like, we have learned and heard about this forever, and now we are seeing it at 8/9 of its full power, railing and wailing on pain, throwing him around like a rag doll, and actually giving Naruto the tiniest ability to pull through and win the fight at the end. I think that that's fantastic writing, a fantastic emotional reason as to why he would actually go full Joker arc, and despite being traumatic, it was an overall upbeat fight that he managed to get back to his wits by the end of it because he finally learned that the 4th Hokage was his father. Overall, this is one of the greatest Joker arcs in anime, and I know a lot of people like to wail on it because either the animation was bad, or because he didn't deserve to win the fight, or because some other random BS reason. I will go as far as to say that I think this was a really good emotional climax, a really great way to introduce the Nine-Tails once again into the story, and all in all, the Naruto versus Pain fight was great. So this isn't a Joker arc that lasted over hundreds of episodes, over dozens of arcs, over a while. This is a Joker arc that lasted for an hour, but it doesn't undercut its prevalence or importance to the story even a little. A fateful encounter, a ghoul's deadly bite, transformed his life, plunged him into the night. With a hunger for flesh, a struggle to survive, Kaneki walked the line between two lives. Kaneki Ken from Tokyo Ghoul will always have a fantastic Joker arc. I wish that I actually read the manga to this one, because Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 and 3 and 4 and 2.5 was honestly one of the biggest tragedies in recent history. I feel like everyone that wrote Tokyo Ghoul collectively drank a Grimace shake immediately before producing Season 2. But from only the glimmer that I've actually seen of the Tokyo Ghoul Joker arc, I am convinced that it's one of the best in anime and deserves an entry about halfway into this video. God, I'm only halfway into this video. This is gonna be like an hour long. What do I gotta do? I'm live. What's going on with it? If you're not leaving a like, goddammit, I'm gonna enter my Joker arc. If you're not subscribing for this baby, I'm gonna lose it. Anyway, I'm not even talking about the fact that this dude Kaneki became a ghoul. He went from human to ghoul, which is kind of creepy, I guess. However, since he's sort of half ghoul situation and it's weird, he was a little bit in between two worlds. Is he a ghoul or is he a human? And he tries his best to live a life where both sides are kind of a mask, and he is completely flubbing around, losing his identity, not knowing who he is himself, until someone decides to teach him who he is. Introducing Jason, history's scariest hockey player, who captures Kaneki, who ties him down, and who tortures him. And I don't mean tortures him like he just slaps him up a little bit. No. Dude gives him the Florida torture treatment. Takes these massive centipedes that you could only find in like the fields of Ohio and puts them in his ears, and they're burrowing into his flesh, and just horrible torture. Holy crap. And this dude Jason, bit of a whack job. He always like tries to have the person maintain some sort of sanity. He's always telling him count 1,000 minus 9, and then 991 minus 9. Just count in minus 9s to help keep your brain alive while I completely torture you and make you wish you were all sorts of dead. As Jason leans into Kaneki and says the fateful words, "I am the physical embodiment of what Twitter For You page does to your mind," Kaneki is writhing in agony, and eventually Kaneki cracks. Eventually, his mind is broken, and he becomes a true ghoul. He truly finds himself, and the himself that he finds is the Joker arc version of the himself that he was. Kaneki escapes from his shackles. Kaneki fights Jason, who is an incredibly powerful hockey player. So, definitely not from the Montreal Canadiens hockey team, which, as much as they like to try, they will never win the Stanley Cup. But try as he might, he stands no chance against the monster that he himself created. The Kaneki Joker arc is overly impactful because his first act of absolute divine retribution is destroying the man that turned him into who he is. And it's beautiful. I love me some revenge Joker arcs, they just make me happy. But as he's killing him, and as he's eating him, he asks Jason, "Hey Jason, what's 1,000 minus 9? Just the laughter that he hears from Kaneki as Kaneki consumes him while thinking 1,000 minus 9, his own torture technique. It just sent chills to my bones. Doesn't help that now every time Kaneki does his evil laugh, giggity, 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 it's just terrifying. Horror-struck. This man has become a shell of his former self. What's so ironic and terrifying is that Jason, through what he's done, he has created a monster that reflects himself. Now, I don't exactly know what happens after this point because I'm so confused as to all the adaptations of the following seasons in the anime. I imagine Kaneki found himself in a Romanian prison and is awaiting some sort of penalty for his crimes, but that's only speculation on my part. That one fight scene, Kaneki versus Jason, with the Unravel soundtrack blasting in the background, is just one of the scariest fight scenes ever, because what happened to Kaneki became the person that was torturing him, and I feel like that evolution is not something that's too far from what the reality would be in many of these situations. A lot of people that have crimes committed towards them end up committing those very same crimes, whether it's crimes from a sexual perverted nature or it's crimes on a much more dogmatic abuse. So often the victims become the criminals in the next generation, and I feel like we literally saw a representation of that mental scar happen in real time with Kaneki. It's very satisfying watching him torture and destroy Jason in the way that he was tortured and destroyed, but it is also just as equally terrifying watching his vindication make him become exactly the person that he was trying to defeat. And speaking of feet, the hentai for feet in Tokyo Ghoul specifically. Like, there's a lot of foot-eating hentai, and there is literally no other video in the world that I could have possibly made that would have a segue that I could tell you that I know about it, and I am ashamed that I know about it. But this is the one time I'm gonna have the ability to make that segue, and I am not gonna just let that pass up, okay? And if I saw the Toka foot hentai, then you need to know that it exists too, god damn it! A transformation unleashed. A price to pay. His innocence shattered as shadows held sway. Yet even in darkness, his heart held a spark. Gon's unwavering spirit pierced through the dark. Gon is a character that through the entirety of Hunter x Hunter always looked at the world with a glass half full personality. Something I cannot relate to at all because I am a dogmatic, imperialistic realist, and I believe that it's not half full nor is it half empty. It is just a question devised by idiots to make you feel like they're putting you in a box, and I am not in a box. I am leagues beyond what they can even conceive. Glass half full, glass half empty. I don't need to give it a label. Anyway, lost myself for a second there. Point I'm trying to make is, totally because I am a normal, sane individual and a YouTuber that you should all love and respect and not at all take anything I say to heart because I am a YouTuber and YouTubers are all liars. Now, Gon is a character that his father abandoned him in the beginning, and despite all that, the label he was given by idiots is the glass half full type of personality. He's the type of guy that wanders around and sees the best in everything, even when everything around him is in absolute and complete disarray. The fact that this man could walk into the Zoldyck household where his best friend Killua is getting abused daily, and he's just like, oh man, oh gee willikers, man, this place is wholesome as heck. Yeah, anyone that could have that mindset after going through the freaking Zoldyck arc, goddamn man, you got balls that I love and respect. Anyway, Gon, bit of a freaks, goes around doing all the wholesome stuff and eventually finds a character by the name of Kite. Now, Kite is like his godfather, sort of. Spoilers to anything somewhat nice that happens in Hunter x Hunter, it turns into tragedy. Faster than EDP found tragedy when he meant to find a cupcake. Kite is eventually killed by Pito, one of the Chimera Ants, which is a race of incredibly powerful creatures that is a threat to the world, and they are dispatched to eliminate them. As the arc continues and Gon wants to avenge Kite's death, he eventually kind of loses it when he comes face to face with Pito again. Originally, he asks Pito to try and heal Kite, but obviously that cannot happen. Kite is completely lost. And when he finally realizes that that is the case, he activates something called a Nen condition. The power system in Hunter x Hunter will forever be regarded, in my opinion, as the greatest power system in all of anime because of the condition aspect to it. Yes, there are many different types of Nen, but we're not getting into all the nitty-gritty, or this will be an hour longer than it even is because Nen is incredibly complicated. But one aspect to Nen that I really like a lot is the conditional aspect, that people can place conditions upon themselves to limit themselves in certain areas so that they can kind of squeeze out more energy in those slim areas that they could use it. A simple example, Kurapika has his chain powers, and he has limited his chain powers with a condition that he can only utilize it against people in the Phantom Troop. Since he can only use it against them, and he is limited by the fact that he cannot use it against anyone else, it becomes exponentially stronger, specifically against them because of the condition that he placed upon himself. The condition Gon places, because he would give his entire life to see this revenge through, is that he will be forever an invalid, to just drain every ounce of power that he has right now. he enters adult form Gon, which I think is a very fitting way to show you that this is Gon at his prime, because Gon will never reach his prime once this condition is carried out, and he produces one of the most gobsmackingly terrifying smackdowns I've ever seen. He obliterates Pito. He turns her into ash and rubble on the ground. This is a character that has not taken an L yet. Kite is known as one of the most fearsome hunters. He's an incredibly powerful dude, and he stood absolutely no chance against Pito. It was over in one instant. Pito appeared holding Kite's arm, which was immediately chopped off. Kite knew he didn't have a prayer before the fight even started, and the next scene, Kite's head is resting in her lap because of how little and nothing of a threat he was from her perspective. Now, Pito is not only scared and not only viewing her own death, but she gets obliterated by Gon. It's not even a match. It's not even close. It's a massacre. And this is coming from the glass half full label boy, the optimist, the one that went through every piece of his life so far with the glass half full mentality. His dad left him, well, I'll find him. The hunter exam is cursed as heck and people are dying, well, I'll just not be one of those that die. My friend Killua is being tortured by his family, well, we're gonna go on an adventure. This is what happens when the facade crumbles. This is what happens when the most wholesome optimist in the world finally gets his hopes dashed. The animation in the scene, the terrifying connotations to what he is doing, becoming this person that he never was, when he completely enters his Joker arc, when he completely fights Pito in this scene, you do not even know who you're rooting for. Looking back at Gon from the lens of the person that could become a being and creature of such darkness, depravity, and cruelty, you can start to understand who Gon is through another lens for the entire show. The reason why this Joker arc is so powerful is because this is right beneath the optimistic facade the entire story until this point. When you're introduced to Gon in the beginning, he is not someone optimistic that he sees people dying in this screwed up hunter exam and he's just like, well, I won't die. Well, what if he isn't that wholesome kid? What if he's a freaking sociopath and he doesn't care that all these people are dying? Well, you know, he keeps going and he sees Killua as being tortured in this completely messed up whack house and he's just excited to go on an adventure with Killua. Well, maybe it's not that he's glass half full that he's gonna go on an adventure with Killua. Maybe he just doesn't care that Killua spent his life being completely tortured by his completely disturbing, dysfunctional family, like it walked right out of a Game of Thrones episode. What if the only thing that was ever on Gon's mind was himself? What if this Joker arc just revealed another side of Gon's personality that he always had, but that never actually was tugged, pushed, or prodded into the position where it needed to actually reveal itself? What if Gon truly is the Joker arc, and the wholesome boy we've been watching this entire time, what if that's the facade? At some point, you start to forget who's who, and I think that's the case with a lot of people entering their respective Joker arcs. More often than not, yes, you're gonna get some crazy whacked out instant that changes who you are for a moment because of some emotional craziness that just happened in your life, but what if that's the person you always were? What if that's the person that was just being suppressed, but that's the real you? And I think that's the question that gets posed to us when we see Gon at this very moment. And I will never talk about the scene without mentioning possibly the greatest writing decision in the history of manga. But the fact that the main character in the Chimera Ant arc, Gon, and the main antagonist in the Chimera Ant arc, Meruem, are complete and polar opposites, where Gon is the story about a wholesome kid who descends into depravity, and due to all of the horror that he witnesses, he becomes a disgusting, cruel, and vindictive monster, whereas the antagonist Meruem, a cruel, disgusting, and vindictive monster, as he starts to learn more about the world, starts to act more like a wholesome and glass half full type loving kid. What is the human and what is the monster? And that is the question posed to us as we are introduced to the Joker arc of Gon Freaks from Hunter x Hunter. From the stars she descended, a creature of wrath, her powers unleashed, leaving trails of bloodbath. With a blood-stained umbrella, her weapon of choice, Kagura danced in anguish, her enemies she'd voice. I'll be honest, this is one of the entries that I did not really necessarily want to include in this video, but then I decided the video would not be done justice without exactly this. So, as I've mentioned, I try my best to hit any certain topic from as many different angles as possible, because even though this is kind of a lighthearted-ish outlook on some of the most epic scenes in anime that we could kind of relive them, it is also a bit of a breakdown on what makes this exact trope so goddamn impactful and great. And I could not do it justice without including my girl Kagura from Gintama. Now, Gintama is an anime very close to my art, which is partially why I never really made videos on it. I kind of feel like it's mine, and I don't really want to expose it or make it my job or anything like that. So I've really kind of been avoiding talking about it in detail, especially because I feel like pretty much no one's seen it. I have never met anyone in my life that has seen the whole Gintama, and it becomes incredibly difficult to talk about it without spoiling any of the actual heartfelt moments. It constantly toggles from this incredibly light-hearted atmosphere of these people just getting by doing their daily lives to these incredibly high points of emotional tension and character-driven narrative, and I don't want to spoil any of the actual high points. So I'm going to be talking about Kagura with the utmost respect, talking about her Joker arc, haha, wink wink, but also without actually spoiling any of the character-driven moments. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this in particular is because Kagura is this cute little alien girl. This cute girl with red hair, she's doing her thing, she's going around, she's always jolly and happy, until she's not. See, unlike most of the characters on this list, where a pivotal moment in their life snaps something within them and unleashes their inner Joker arc when they can go mask off and go completely hog wild. They change and they hate the person that they become. Kagura is not exactly in that scenario at all. You see, Kagura comes from the Yato clan, a clan of the strongest warriors in the entire galaxy, and despite the fact that she's this jovial girl, she's constantly just super strong, super badass. I just keep remembering the one little gender bender arc where these aliens change the genders of all the characters in the freaking world. You cannot describe this show in any meaningful context, okay? The whole arc was like 2 episodes. It's not like it was a big deal, but I keep remembering how she gender bends from like this cute, tiny little alien girl to this absolute massive behemoth Giga Chad Yujiro Hanma lookalike with like a massive beard. And she's like, I saw this thing dangling from my abdomen, referring to her penis. So I ripped it off and flushed it down the toilet. Like, that's the first introduction to her in her gender bend arc. She is a wild, wild character. And the funny thing is, and the reason why I specifically wanted to mention this, is because her Joker arc stems from any form of emotional climax or any form of fight that really gets her blood pumping, where she actually unleashes her inner Yato and becomes a clear member of one of the strongest forces in the galaxy. All the fights that she actually gets into is some of the greatest and most wild anime bloodshed you will ever see in your life. Watching this little girl tear her opponent's limb from limb in absolute savagery, so that there's always that looming fear over all of the characters' heads. What if Kagura actually gets mad? I understand I'm an incredibly powerful fighter, but what if I do piss off this lighthearted, jovial, laughing girl? She can obliterate me. And while it definitely resonates as far as a comedic point in the series, it also resonates as an emotional one because she likes who she is around the Odd Jobs members, and she likes who she becomes as a member of Gintoki's family of whack jobs. Anyway, the reason why I'm mentioning this again specifically and hammering down that this is a necessary inclusion is because Kagura's Joker arc is giving into her own genetics. She is genetically tuned to be a badass, fearsome warrior, a bloodthirsty demon of the battlefield. And more often than not, she ends up caving into that in dire situations, and it's a pretty great thing very often that they have someone as monstrous and savage as her on their side, but she doesn't like that side of her. Her Joker arc is just her actual true self. Now, I feel like a lot of us kind of can understand and relate to that to some degree. I feel like, again, she's pertinent to mention here because the Joker arc that a lot of people undergo, it's not only something that changes them, it could also be the themselves that they try to leave behind. I feel like society is very, very focused on placing boundaries and rules on who you are not allowed to be and on things that you are not allowed to believe. Or some of these rules are self-inflicted, you know? Some people that want to become a certain person even though they are not that person right now. And their default genetic settings are kind of going against the grain, as it were. Either it's someone trying to be religious in a very atheistic setting, or it's someone trying to be an atheist in a very religious setting. Or just anywhere on the political spectrum, any possible thing you could think of, there are a million reasons why you should and shouldn't believe in any of that stuff. And a lot of people, I feel like, have to constantly worry about locking their true selves away in order to be regarded as someone respectable by their peers. This is in a way sad, and it's a way, I guess, progress, question mark? But I do think either way, it does ring true in regards to Kagura's character, and I really like her Joker arcs where she does go savage because they are absolutely hilarious, and watching people get brutalized on screen is why I'm an anime fan today. I could talk about all this deep psychological shiz, but ultimately, is this man putting his foot up someone else's ass? Because that's what I'm into. In the depths of darkness, where vengeance resides, a lone avenger emerged, his heart deprived. A prodigious shinobi, his soul trapped in moss. Sasuke Uchiha, consumed by the pain of loss. So, I really wanted to throw the wool over your eyes a little bit because I had this whole segment for Naruto earlier in the video. The reason why I waited this long to introduce Sasuke's Joker arc, which I think is way wilder, is because, frankly, I just didn't want you to see it coming. I wanted you to be like, oh, hey, you talking about Naruto and not Sasuke, I guess. But no, turns out I have no rules. I know everyone always limits, like, one anime moment per video because I'm not gonna be that guy. Well, I am that guy. This is my Joker arc, and I will include two people from the same show in this video. I make no sense anymore. I'm delirious. I like Sasuke's Joker arc because it turns him into a person that is the person he always kind of wanted to be. Unlike the Joker arcs from a lot of other characters where they have their morals and ethics and they have to like throw them to the side to unleash the beast within and, you know, take revenge for a fallen comrade or something. This is the person Sasuke always wanted to be, and the Joker arc was almost a calculated decision on his part. When he is slowly but surely realizing that he is being surpassed by Naruto at the beginning of the prequel, and he ends up getting his curse mark and running into the forest with the sound ninjas to get trained by Orochimaru, also known as the albino pedophile racist. He knows that he is going off the deep end. He fights his friend, he considers killing him, but he doesn't because he still has some good inside him. He ends up finally killing Orochimaru before Orochimaru is able to kill him. He steals a whole bunch of Orochimaru's test subjects. They form Team Snake, then they join the Akatsuki, and they form Team Hawk, but that is only after he goes on a total rampage. He kills Deidara, Itachi kamikazes, he learns the truth, and the real Joker arc only begins then. You thought he was already delirious with his vengeance in mind, wanting to take revenge against his brother for destroying his clan, so he tries everything. He becomes evil, he rebels against his village, he betrays everyone he knows, he throws everyone to the sidelines to become a force of nature, he starts killing people that he thinks are relatively not nice people. He finally fights Itachi, he finally has Itachi dead, he learns the truth that Itachi was actually the one that was sort of betrayed by the Leaf Village, kinda. Sasuke figured out he had to become a whole double agent, kill his whole clan because his clan was gonna commit a coup. You know the story! Itachi turned out to be not only a good guy, but one of the top 10 anime characters in the history of anime, and if you disagree with me, then frankly, you need to rewatch Naruto Shippuden, because it's a masterpiece. And then, when Sasuke finally learns everything Itachi did, Itachi ended up needing to do, it turns out, Sasuke decides, yeah, I'm gonna take revenge against the Leaf Village. Which I still think is one of the most asinine decisions he could have made, but I totally understand where it came from, looking at it from his perspective. The Joker arc that Sasuke went on was when this man had the audacity, the chutzpah, to show up to the 5 Kage summit and challenge the strongest ninjas alive to a death battle. The fact that he shows up and he's fighting the Raikage, and then he shows up to fight the Mizukage, and then he's tossing blows with Gaara, he chases Danzo down. That was the Sasuke Joker arc. And what I find ironic about the Sasuke Joker arc, and I don't think it's weird to put that Sasuke definitely went through his Joker arc at this moment. A pivotal thing happened in his life, set him on a course of action, he became a menace to society. He checks all the boxes of Joker arc, except the reason why I'm saving him to the second last spot on the entire video is simply not only on a level of magnitude, not only a level of scale, not only because I still jizz every time I see him show up to the 5 Kage summit because it's one of the most epic anime entrances of all time. God damn it, Naruto showing up on the Toads Against Pain got nothing on this. But frankly, the reason why I'm mentioning it here is because unlike every single other Joker arc on the video so far, and now let's think about a couple of them, shall we? Gon freaking pissed off about revenge. You know, Roy Mustang freaking pissed off about revenge. Mob gets kind of freaking pissed off sort of about revenge a little bit, whatever. Jack the Ripper has his weird twisted mentality that changes him as a person. Kaneki completely went crazo. The characters that we've talking about so far are characters that due to the event that happened and transpired in their life, they, whether consciously or unconsciously, made the decision to enter their Joker arc and became a different person than who they were. The reason why I'm mentioning Sasuke right here is because this is the first ever on the list contained and controlled Joker arc that a character's actually gone through. This is a man that isn't acting rashly and isn't doing the crazy thing at the moment just because of some impact in his life that made him go completely haywire and change who he is. This is very clearly the same dude that we were introduced to in episode 2 of the show. What's so terrifying about Sasuke's Joker arc is that I don't think he even necessarily regrets any of the decisions he's made at the time that he made them. I could still see him standing by all the things that he's done. Will he admit that he's an asshole for betraying the Lee village and running away to train with Orochimaru? Yeah, I'll admit he's an asshole, but the greater good was him becoming stronger. Will he regret betraying Orochimaru? No, Orochimaru's gonna kill him. Would he regret fighting Itachi? No, I don't think he would, because at the time he really thought Itachi was the one that killed his entire clan, and Itachi was egging him on to become the person that would try to take him down. Well, would he regret fighting Danzo and killing Danzo? No, Danzo's an asshole. He is the most unlikable anime character of all time, and quite frankly, he's not very handsome either. I feel like Sasuke's Joker arc, his absolute, complete, insano, wacko style rampage throughout the entire show, was completely within his mental faculties and control, and it's why he remains as maybe one of the most terrifying characters I'm talking about today. It all is definitely precipitated by different life events, but I don't feel like they've changed him as much as they've guided him. He definitely, undoubtedly needed a spot on this list because I definitely and undoubtedly really needed to talk about this as a different perspective, as a different type of Joker arc in anime, and I feel like it gives us a different impression completely as to what going off the rails even means. Also, Sasuke is the only character that I could think of that bites a waifu. Branded by destiny, forsaken and betrayed, he wielded his sword, a slayer of demons unswayed. In battles against evil, his wrath knew no bounds. Guts, the relentless warrior, forever in the battlegrounds. In a world of darkness where demons breed, a lone warrior emerged, his scars a creed. Haunted by his past, trapped in relentless cage, Guts, the black swordsman, a man consumed by rage. I'll be frank with you, I did not want to end this video with Guts. I did that last time, or 2 times ago. Did I end like one of my massive anime projects with Guts, and I really feel like he deserved all that love and respect by getting #1 biggest flex in all of anime on my top 50 biggest flexes in anime list, which you should definitely watch. It was an absolute masterclass banger video. And I regret to inform you that I am once again unable to control my fate. Now, I know that I'm not necessarily ranking all these Joker arcs in levels of intensity, just kind of putting them and or sorting them through the video as different styles and flavors of the trope that I love so much, but I feel like none actually contain all the aspects of it that I've mentioned so far, except for Guts. Berserk will forever be probably my favorite manga of all time, and there is no doubt in my mind why that is the case. The duality of Guts and Griffith, what it means to actually be a human, the struggling against your fate, they're all so many powerful, important themes and aspects to what makes humans human, and it becomes one of the most relatable stories of all time. Yeah, I'm not brandished with the mark that I'm being chased by demons trying to, you know, obliterate me and kill me and stuff, unless you can consider the Twitter hordes demons, in which case I and Guts are pretty much the same guy. Oh my God! But anyway, the reason why I put this here so much is because I feel like he embodies the best aspects of every single character's Joker arc until now. Spoilers for Berserk, but at the end of the first major arc in Berserk, the Golden Age arc. Now, you're probably wondering why it's called the Golden Age arc if it's an entire arc of torture, war, and sad backstories, but it's the Golden Age compared to what's about to come. What's about to happen is so bad. This traumatic event is the Golden Age. All right, now that we put that into perspective, at the end of the Golden Age arc, Griffith, this dude who's done no wrong in his life, decides that he is going to be the ultimate utilitarianistic capitalist and sacrifice literally everyone he knows and loves to the demon gods in order to walk upon their corpses and join the God Hand, because he becomes a socialist and decides to spread the wealth between him and the other creepy, sick, fat guys and naked women that have also managed to retain this level of godhood. But after Guts basically witnesses every single person he's known and loved and grown attached to for the entire past 25 episodes, or over 100 chapters, he eventually sees every single one of them die before him, save 2. One being Casca, who he is in love with, and he has to watch her get raped by Griffith, his former best friend, with a demon holding his head to watch Griffith do the deed. If Guts was Sneeko, this would be a very different story. But unfortunately for Guts, he is not Sneeko, and he didn't actually like watching that happen at all. After all the torture and torment that he's gone through at that time, he has a brand upon him that he will constantly be chased by demons to become a sacrifice, and he is forced to live his entire life as a wandering black swordsman from place to place, constantly finding the absolute worst of demon kind trying to kill him, destroy him, and he has to fight them. As far as tough lives go, this man, top of the totem pole. Now, during the Black Swordsman arc, I would say that's his Joker arc. He kind of leaves Casca on some farm because Casca's mind is completely broken and shattered by all that. I guess that's what happens to you when a white guy gains ultimate power. Look at that. Political commentary right here on the Nux Taku channel. If that's not a reason to survive and subscribe, I don't know what is. So Guts is going against the grain. He gets into his Joker arc phase. He cares about no one and goes wild. Kills people. His arm that gets chopped off, which he chopped off himself because he was kind of going haywire, he ends up replacing it with a machine gun crossbow / bazooka, which is incredibly badass. He ends up getting the Berserker armor, which is an armor that basically impales him at all sides and forces his bones together in order to continue fighting and battling. He's literally being torn limb from limb, but it will pull out every ounce of his strength and tear him to shreds on the inside so he can fight at his absolute 100% potential. Man has a very, very hard life before that, and his life only gets harder. I'd say his Joker arc is basically the entirety of the story post-Eclipse. But what's so wild is, slowly but surely, he is starting to learn how to contain it and control it. The Joker arc is no longer his enemy, it is who he has become, and it is someone that he is learning to befriend. His inner beast that keeps taking over is something that he realizes is just actually kind of himself. And I really appreciated that because there are two entirely different perspectives on the inner beast thing that keeps happening. I've seen Berserk review channels talking about the Beast of Darkness as a separate entity, where I always viewed it as a metaphor of his own carnal self. And I think both of those could be true interpretations of the Berserk story. Another reason why Berserk is just so damn good. It's just so good. But if you look at all the reasons and all the things that I've had on the list so far, all the different Joker arcs I've talked about, you'll notice something kind of crazy. Mob goes wild where he feels like everything was taken from him. Jack the Ripper starts his Joker arc because he was lied to his entire life. Mustang, it was revenge. For Naruto, it was an explosive emotional response. For Kaneki, it was absolute torture. For Gon, he was willing to put his life and very future on the line for his result. For Kagura, it's in her very genes. And for Sasuke, it was planned out with some form of mental control over every action that he's taken. Guts is the culmination of every single one of these Joker arcs combined. Guts lost everything. His best friend lied to him. His best friends were murdered. It was an emotional explosion. He was tortured. He put his life on the line every single day. It was in his very upbringing, and he made the conscious decision to continue struggling and fighting for a future. Guts is the perfect character. There's no amount of praise I could give to this man. That would be too much. Guts from Berserk will forever be my favorite protagonist in manga history, and Berserk will always be my favorite manga. The Joker arc isn't your enemy. Your enemy is learning to control it. Everyone's different. You gotta be yourself, and you gotta learn how to control the you that makes you your best. Everyone goes through shit, and everyone gets changed by everything around them. The only thing you have control over is how you move forward. Hope you've been enjoying the resurgence of actual God tier content over here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I put a lot of love and soul into this video, so if you want to share it around or leave a like and subscribe for future stuff, it would be appreciated. And with that said, remember to stay weird, fam.